Hello everyone and welcome to What If Confidential Episode 2. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Instead of actually talking about the characters of this channel and the ongoing lore and the multiverse story that I'm actually working on, this time around I thought I'd give you a little bit of insight to the way that I actually do my artwork and the new art direction that I've coined as the dark arts. Well, because I'm going for more of a darker theme and more of a gothic theme with actually my drawing, and it's all in a black and white high contrast style. So sitting in front of me now is the 11th Doctor's body. So I do actually do the head and the body separate because then I can animate it and I can draw each pose at a high level of detail if I do it this way. Also, if I need to illustrate a different character in the position of the Doctor, for instance the Dr. Missy, I can just attach Missy's head to this body and it's a lot easier that way. Anyway, let's move on to doing more detail to this base drawing that I did in Krita. So now what we need is to do the knife tool, and this is Artrage, by the way. A lot of drawing apps do actually have this tool. However, I do like the way that you can get presets in Artrage, and if you look here to the right, it's got all these presets for the settings, and the one that I like to use is called Frost. The knife tool is very handy for smearing, blurring, and also fading in the colours. As you can see, it defaults at 30, but I think that might be a little bit too big for this art piece, but let's give it a try anyway. As you can see, we're getting that nice little blur, and it kind of looks like, you know, if you smudge pencil with your finger. Yeah, see, the size of the brush was a little bit too big. It's bringing in the black line a little bit too much. I don't mind it when it brings it in a little bit, but this is way too much. So you've got to change the size. I'm thinking about 10%. Yeah, okay, that is so much better. Look at that. Fading in pretty nice. And it's not distorting that black line like it was doing with the bigger brush. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is for every time that the shade changes, I'm going to blend it in so it looks a little bit more natural. So there isn't much of a drop off in colour and it looks more faded and shaded in. Alright, that's going to do it for the fading of the colours for now. Once I finish off this little part of the neck. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to the pencil tool. And again, Artrage has a very good preset for this. It's called B shading. However, the default of the brush size is usually way too big. So you're going to have to change that. Always keep that in mind. For this one, I'm going to make the brush size about 30%. And now I'm going to add more shading to the art piece where I find appropriate. Once we've added this pencil B shading brush, what we're going to do then is we're going to alternate back to the knife tool, again on Frost, same settings as before, and we're just going to go over it so when you zoom out here, it's going to look nice and faded. However, because we are using B shading, it will add a little bit extra texture to the drawing itself. And you essentially do this for the whole drawing, so you add different layers and keep working into it, and you can get that really nice faded look that also has a little bit of texture to it and a bit of nuance. Alright, so here you can actually see that I've cut into line art with the shading. To avoid this, I would recommend that you use a different layer to do your shading. That is usually what pro artists do. But I just did this all on the single layer. And anyway, it's very easy to recorrect all these lines anyway. And just go over it with the pen tool. Personally, I don't mind having a few mistakes in my artwork, because I think it represents that I did it by hand on the Canvas Pro 13 and I'm not using something like AI generated art. Anyway, I'm going to speed up the footage now to the next step. Alright, so we've got all our base shading in place. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add highlights to this body. And what I'm using here is the pen tool again, but I've got the opacity set to 17 and the color set to white. This helps majorly with the contrast, and I know the bow doesn't have circles on it, but this is my artwork, so I'm gonna do whatever I want. Something that I'd like to point out here when doing these highlights, there is no stabilization on my brush. This gives the lines a little bit of a wavy look. If I zoom in here, see, not completely straight. But this in fact adds character to the drawing that I'm doing, and it wouldn't look right if they were completely straight anyway.